Thanks for that kind introduction. You used the word honored to lead, and we are. We're honored to serve the province of Saskatchewan. We're also honored to be here for this particular luncheon and grateful that you would host us here today. Just before I begin, single out a few people. Rajat Neg has become a close friend, and I just want to acknowledge his presence here. He's the Managing Director General for the Asia Development Bank and a source of good advice to us as a government on our Asian strategy. And most importantly of all, he's a fellow alum of the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon. But it's always good to see you. Your Excellency, to the Ambassador and his team, we want to say very clearly that you've helped us immeasurably to put together a successful day here. The same is true for the delegation that has come. We have a number of businesses here, more about them in a moment. And I think, I'm not sure, we might have missed him in the introduction, but we have the head of the Saskatchewan Trade-Export Partnership, Lionel LaBelle, is also here. And he is together with some employers from our province who are on a recruitment mission, and he's also talking yellow peas and flour and all manner of other things that we hope to be able to market around the world. You know, as I look out on the crowd and even just reflect back on last night and today, I could tell you that I feel at home here. I think our whole delegation feels at home. The friendly faces and the very, very warm welcome that we've received since we've come, it's all very familiar. You see, our province is growing faster than it has ever grown before from a population standpoint, and the single largest source of international newcomers, fully a third, are from the Philippines. They've not just settled in our cities, but also in our rural communities, and they've not just settled in either of those places, they have helped to shape them. They are building those communities even now. This connection actually is very close for Tammy and I want to say that on trade missions I usually don't get the company of Tammy, my wife, but she's here on this one, and thanks for maybe just a quick hello to Tammy would be good. Thanks, Tammy. I don't think she wanted me to do that, so I'll be in some sort of trouble after. But we have a close connection to this very dynamic relationship. A few weeks ago, we moved our son to the university for his first year, the university in our largest city, Saskatoon. Coulter chose a couple of his buddies, his closest friends, to be his roommates. One of them is a young fellow by the name of Benedict de Gala. His family came to Swift Current not very long ago. And Tammy and I were very pleased that Benedict is going to be Coulter's roommate, not just because they're very good friends, but because Coulter, well, Coulter's our son. He's bright, he's going to be very successful, but he may not be the most organized young fellow. And he has no idea, notwithstanding our efforts to teach him, he has no idea how to cook. Benedict is very, very organized, and his dad's a chef in Swift Current. So Benedict also can cook, and we've said to Benedict, we're so grateful you're Coulter's roommate, please help him to just survive this first year. Keep him alive for us. In addition to Benedict being a very close friend of Coulter's, he's a great student. He's enrolled in engineering. He has a great attitude. He's just always got a smile on his face. And by the way, from the experience of the Saskatchewan delegation here and people back home, I can tell you that this attitude seems to be part of the national character of the Filipino people. And it's remarkable. I was just saying earlier to a gentleman when we were chatting, I have no doubt that somewhere in the world there is an angry Filipino or someone who is maybe grumpy. I just have not met that person yet. Maybe they choose Toronto when they... The Filipino people who have come to help build our province are a remarkable group, and if you talk to these employers, they will tell you about their outstanding work ethic and their contributions to our communities there. Even when the weather gets cold, which it does for a week or two, smiles do not leave their faces. In fact, last December, I was fortunate enough to attend the Filipino Community Association Christmas party in our home city of Swift Current. It's a city of about 16,000 people. And the Filipino community puts on the best Christmas party. It is the hottest ticket in town at Christmas time. There was about 500 at this particular party. They taught me how to say Malagang Pasco, probably not very well. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you take some comfort and some satisfaction in the knowledge that the Filipino culture is being celebrated in a far-off place like Saskatchewan. I hope you take satisfaction in the knowledge that your fellow citizens are outstanding ambassadors for this beautiful country and this great people, and that our kids are growing up together. This bond might be most important of all, more important than trade, maybe even more important than potash and wheat, is the fact that our kids are growing up together. And again, we just want to say for this, thank you very much. Saskatchewan and the Philippines have more in common, though, than Coulter and Benedict's friendship or thousands of other friendships like theirs. Our economies are both performing very well. That, too, we have in common. Your exports to Saskatchewan are up, nearly tripled from the four-year average from 2008 to 2012, and our exports into the Philippines are also headed for a new record, on track to exceed the 10-year average by 50%. Our GDP is one of the leaders in the country, first, second, or third, depending on which economist you'll talk to, and your GDP growth is remarkable, 6.7%, 7%, forecast for another 7% next year. We did recently receive a credit rating upgrade, as was referenced, to AAA by Standard & Poor's, one of only 3 provinces in Canada to receive that credit rating. And I was reading in the Wall Street Journal just last week about the remarkable news for this economy and this country. You are now the first Asian country to get investment grade ratings from all of the major rating agencies. The Moody's announcement came with a descriptor. They supported their increase in the upgrade with the following, quote, robust economic growth, fiscal and debt consolidation, political stability, and improved governance were all reasons for the upgrade they gave for this particular economy. You must be proud. We are also proud of the fact that senior economists in our country and the chartered banks are saying things, as one did just before we left, like Saskatchewan is the place to be within Canada. We have seen remarkable population growth, for example. It's unprecedented for us. You are seeing some very significant economic growth, and so I'm certain that there is at least one more thing that we share in common, and that is a resolve, a determination that this economic strength in our province and in your country would continue, could be sustained for the long term. For our part, we know that government doesn't create this economic advantage. It's the employers. And we have 8 companies represented here today with 150 job offers to make. But it's companies like this, women and men, entrepreneurs who are building the Saskatchewan advantage. We do believe there are things that governments can do to either stay out of their way or maybe help to some extent. And so we've implemented a growth plan in Saskatchewan. It's built on 6 principles. The first is competitiveness. We want to reduce taxes where we can afford to do so. We want to ensure that our regulatory regime, both for the resource sector but also our labor legislative environment, is fair but competitive with every jurisdiction with whom we must compete. We need to deal with the labor shortage. It's part of the reason why we're here, but training at home is also important there. We need to be focused on an innovation agenda, and we are to build the next economy in the province on the strength of our resource economy. And by the way, the resource strength of Saskatchewan and government doing what it can in terms of competitiveness, in terms of the right regulatory framework, that's a big part of our growth plan. We are blessed to have, as the video pointed out, many natural resources, but you need to develop them. You need to do it in a sustainable way. You need to then make sure you can get it to market. And I know there's debate all around the world about mining, about resource development. I can tell you that our record is imperfect, as any place's record would be, but our experience is a very, very positive one. In terms of mining, in terms of resource development, we do have significant and rigorous environmental regulations that must be met, tests that must be met, but they are by industry who understand the rules going forward, and they act with responsibility to develop jobs. In fact, I can tell you that with respect to uranium mining, there's a great success story there. We have very low unemployment in Saskatchewan, but our unemployment amongst our Aboriginal people is a little bit higher. Well, it's too high. It's higher than the overall rate. It is the mining sector, especially the uranium mining sector, that is actually a champion in this respect. 44% of their entire mining workforce are Aboriginal people from our province, First Nations people who need that employment. It's part of our growth plan. A significant part of our growth plan is also international engagement. Since we were elected in 2007, we knew we had a pretty good story to tell, but up until then we were sort of like the tree that fell in the forest. We weren't sure that anybody knew. And so we've worked hard with the support of embassies around the world to get our story out. That's why we're here. Yes, we'd like to pursue new developments and new opportunities, but we're also here to just simply say thank you to the people of the Philippines, to the companies here with whom we work. 50% of the potash you import is potash from the province of Saskatchewan. You import quite a few peas. Most of those come from Saskatchewan farmers. Wheat, Canada is your 4th largest supplier of wheat. A lot of that will come from Saskatchewan. Again, we want to say thank you. But we also want to say, what else can we do together? We want to offer the opportunity to explore the furtherance, the expansion of that partnership. There is more opportunity, we believe, in agriculture in this respect. For instance, you should know that our province has more than 18 million hectares of cultivated farmland. When you add in the grazing land, it's about 25 million hectares. We are, as the video pointed out, the world's largest exporter of lentils and durum and wheat, oats, flaxseed, a leading exporter of mustard as well. And now, in the post-Canadian Wheat Board environment, we've moved away from a monopoly Canadian Wheat Board in Canada. In that environment, we're going to have greater flexibility to customize products for this part of the world and for customers that this part of the world wishes to serve. So there's opportunity in agriculture. There's more opportunity on the immigration front. I think that's fair to say. In 2001, there were 92 Filipinos who moved to the province of Saskatchewan. It's not very long ago. Just 10 years later, last year, there was 3,100 Filipinos that moved to Saskatchewan to help us build the Saskatchewan advantage. I read in some interesting facts about Manila. There are 43,000 people per square kilometer in Manila. It's one of the most dense places on the planet in terms of population. In Saskatchewan, there are 2 people per square kilometer. The point is, we have a lot of room. We can welcome a lot more people, and we would do so readily. In fact, there are 150 jobs, as I've said, on offer today by these great employers here. There is a shortage of skilled labor in the province of Saskatchewan because of our strength. And as I've mentioned already, these employers value Filipino workers, skilled workers and professionals for the reasons that we've touched on already. Saskatchewan has really never had more opportunity to offer. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the most comprehensive protection for foreign nationals offered by any Canadian province. The Canadian Labour Congress has sent us an email recently to confirm that our province's legislation, which we just introduced and passed, affords the most protection for foreign workers. It includes mandatory licensing for immigration consultants and recruiters and a ban on fees in certain circumstances. We take our responsibilities to foreign workers and to the people back home that they left back home to their governments. We take that very seriously. We're aware of the same stories that the whole world reads about in terms of the treatment of foreign workers. It's not going to happen in our province. It won't happen in our country. And we're going to make sure of it with legislation that we have passed and we believe is fair. We note the MOU that we signed this morning with the Department of Labor and Employment. We're excited about that. I think in recognition of this legislation and our commitment to this kind of responsible partnership, we are now signed an MOU to streamline the process for our employers to precipitate greater flow of migration from the Philippines to Saskatchewan. And there's still more opportunity in energy and innovation. We are leaders in researching and developing enhanced oil recovery technology. I know there's some from the oil and gas business who are here. In our province, we have developed and refined some excellent technologies that reanimate previously thought to be mature assets so they can produce again, and they can do so in a fulsome way. We are leaders in developing the R&D piece around agriculture as well. in our largest city of Saskatoon, where Coulter and Benedict are going to school. That's where you'll find our Crop Development Centre. That's where you'll find 700 scientists working in 30 facilities, public, private, and academic, in the field of agricultural and bioscience. In Saskatoon, we are also building, together with the Potash Corporation of Saskatchewan, the Global Institute for Food Security, a partnership with industry developing new solutions to feed a hungry world. And we're leaders in energy research, or at least we're working hard to be. The Sylvia Fedorik Centre for Nuclear Innovation in Saskatoon, where scientists are doing leading-edge nuclear research, is also focusing on modular nuclear reactors. And the centerpiece of our innovation agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is what the video concluded with, is the Boundary Dam 3, the carbon capture project in southeast Saskatchewan, very near the United States border. It has been developed and executed by our Crown, our government-owned electrical utility, SaskPower. Mike Manya is here at the luncheon. Later this evening, we'll have a special meeting on the potential of CCS for the Philippines and for this region of the world. The Boundary Dam project, ladies and gentlemen, will be the world's first large-scale commercial power plant, coal-fired plant, with a fully integrated post-combustion carbon capture system. It is the first in the world. It's a $1.24 million project. It'll start up next spring. We're testing it this fall because it is now 99% complete. Boundary Dam will capture 1 million tons of CO2 a year and capture 90% of CO2 emissions and all of the other bad stuff, sulfur dioxide and all of the other emissions. It's going to be comparable to combined cycle natural gas, not just in cost, but it'll be a bit cleaner, we think, as well, even than natural gas. The CO2 will be sold to oil companies who use that as a solvent in enhanced oil recovery. And we know this works because we've been doing it for decades in Saskatchewan and in North America. So it's a project that we think is good news for the world because coal will continue to be deployed. We were just in Japan. They will be building coal there. We know coal's part of the solution here. It is in Canada. It is around the world, and now we can clean it up. So we think there's opportunity to further this relationship, to focus on some other things, and we invite your consideration of that. We invite visits back to our province. We'd love to host you. And should you take us up on that invitation, we may suggest a few side trips. We're going to for sure suggest that you go see Maple Creek, Saskatchewan. Maple Creek is a community in the southwest corner of our province. It's very close to our hometown of Swift Currents, about an hour-and-a-half drive. In Maple Creek, you will find the Commercial Hotel. It was built 129 years ago, just a few years after Canada was born and long before our province became a province within our federation. It was established at a time when southwest Saskatchewan was being really opened up by the cattle industry, by cowboys. Cowboys ranchmen tended huge herds in the shadow of the beautiful Cypress Hills. The Cypress Hills are this anomaly, this mountainous formation rising out of the prairies. They're as high actually as Banff and higher than any other point between the Canadian Rockies and the Atlantic Ocean. This was Canada's Wild West back then, where Sitting Bull, the great Sioux Indian chief, sought refuge from the American cavalry after the Battle of Little Bighorn, where the Northwest Mounted Police, the precursors to the Mounties, to the RCMP, chased off American whiskey traders and wolf hunters. The Commercial Hotel takes you back to that era. In front of the hotel remains a hitching post to this day where cowboys would tie their horse, dust themselves off, and go in for a water, or probably something a little stronger. Inside the hotel for a long time there were prints of the paintings of Charlie Russell, the famous cowboy artist. In fact, there's a legend that he came to this hotel and he painted there, and he is one of the preeminent, probably the most famous cowboy artist. It's a special place, a very special place. About 3 years ago there was a huge flood in Maple Creek and the Commercial Hotel was hit hard. In fact, it was inundated with water and it closed. And everyone was convinced, sad as it was, that it was closed for good. But late last year, there were stirrings of life at the Commercial Hotel. A company with 7 shareholders had bought it. Those shareholders began working on the Commercial Hotel, doing a lot of the work themselves with their own hands. Who are these 7 shareholders? Were they long-standing ranch families from southwest Saskatchewan? Or people that had been in the province perhaps for decades and decades? No. all 7 were Filipino newcomers to Saskatchewan. Noy Lim is here today and has become a close friend of the whole province of Saskatchewan. Noy was asked by a local newspaper about the project, and he said, quote, "When we first arrived here in Maple Creek, the town really welcomed us with huge smiles and embraced us. It's not always that you're on the receiving end." He said, "You have to give something." So he went into this venture. Sure, there's an economic opportunity, but there were other reasons as well for Noy and his 6 partners. So when they heard that we were coming to the Philippines, the partners got together and they said, "Noy better come along as too. And sir, we are honored to have you as a very official part of the Saskatchewan delegation of this trip." That's the nature of the relationship that we have between our province and the Philippines. I had a quick meeting with the Filipino associations from across the province before we were coming. And Noy Lim was there as well. We were talking a little about entrepreneurship, and you know, not only is he doing what he's doing in Maple Creek, but the Philippine people in our province are reminding us of our own entrepreneurial heritage and calling us to that energy. He shared with us a saying, which I'm going to mispronounce, and so I apologize in advance, but bear with me. It goes something like, I hope it goes something like, "Sa bawat bahay may hanap buhay," which we understand means in every house there is a business. And so we in Saskatchewan are reminded of this very basic and powerful fact by all the newcomers who have come from Philippines. We know that all will not stay. Some will just get a little bit tired of January and February and come back. But should they do that, we would like them to know that they have helped to build our province, that they have helped to build a deep and enduring and abiding friendship between our peoples, friendship like the one our son has with Benedict. It's a strong connection for 2 countries, born of relationship as well as commerce. It is a solid foundation, though, as well for future development, and I think we are all called in this room to explore the potential of that future development to the benefit of our respective peoples. Salamat. Thank you very much.